reading of Live2D Cubism Manual. This is part 5 of the Live2D Manual reading. We will read from number 4, Body Movement. This time, I will use a tool called Deformer in Live2D to add movement to the body and hair. In the video, I will explain how to use the Deformer while wearing face tilt, hair shaking, arm movement, body up and down, tilt. We'll skip this part. Oops, okay, I thought it didn't translate. Video review. In this section, we will put the art mesh in the Deformer and add movement. There are 4 movements to apply: tilting the face, hair shaking, arm movement, body tilt, and up and down movement. Up and down, up and down. About Deformers. When you view the sample model, you see multiple gray squares and red bars. This is the Deformer. Deformers can be deformed and rotated by putting an art mesh inside. As with the art mesh, the Deformer can have parameters, so if you learn how to use it, you can add various movements to the character. About Deformer types, the gray square and the red bar are both Deformers, but the two are used separately. The gray square says Warp Deformer. Warp Deformer can deform the art mesh inside. The red bar says Rotation Deformer. A rotation deformer is a deformer that specializes in rotational movement and can be rotated by specifying an angle as a number. It is mainly used for neck, arms, feet to make tilting movements. Create face tilting movements. The tilting movement of the face is named angle Z in the parameters of Live2D. First, place the head part in the rotation deformer. From the parts palette, lock the neck, arms, body, and feet. Once locked, select all the art meshes that are not locked with Ctrl A. With the selected, click Create Rotation Deformer at the top of the screen. When you click Create Rotation Deformer, a new dialog will appear. The name can be anything you want. You can decide which part to insert at the insertion destination. This time, I select the face because it is a rotation of the face. Be sure to select Set to Parent of Selected Object to add to. When you can check various settings, click Create. I was able to rotate the Deformer. When rotated, the selected face part rotates. If there are missing parts, you can enter them by selecting the art mesh and selecting the Deformer from the inspector. The Deformer can be adjusted by holding down Ctrl and moving it. This is true for warp deformers. If you do not press Ctrl, the art mesh inside will move together, so be careful. The rotating deformer is to the position of the jaw. Once you have adjusted the position, you can add movement with parameters. The procedure for setting parameters is the same as for art meshes. 3-point insertion is made to the parameters of the face rotation Z to add movement. In this section, let's move 10 degrees to the left and right sides. Hair shakes. Next, let's make the movement of the hair shake. Add movement to the bangs, lateral hair, and back hair. First, select the bangs art mesh and click Create Warp Deformer in the middle of the menu above. The dialog will appear as if it were in the rotation deformer, so check each item. The bottom item is the one that was not in the rotation deformer. For now, the number of Bezier divisions is 2 by 2 and the number of conversions is 5 by 5. When you have entered the number, click Create. Warp Deformer was made. When deforming the deformer, the bangs also deform together. Now, let's add bangs shake to the deformer. When the parameter moves to the left, the tip of the hair swings to the left side of the screen, and when it moves to the right, it moves to the right. It moves so that it shakes to the right side of the screen. When transforming a warp deformer, focus on the editing level in the menu. Editing level 3 is good for rough movement and 1 is good for fine movement. Once you get used to it, you can work efficiently using the editing level, but we recommend using editing level 2 until you get used to it. The shaking movement can be easily made by simply moving the bottom of the deformer. This completes the shaking of the bangs. Make deformers and move your lateral and back hairs as well. Create arm movements. Like the face, select the art mesh and then create a rotating deformer on the arm. However, if the arm is lowered as it is, the rotation deformer is facing up and it is difficult to operate. So by default, I will adjust the angle to match the arm. You can adjust the angle by holding Control and turning the handle. After adjusting the angle, click Set Reference Angle in the inspector to set the reference angle. Setting the reference angle makes it easier to specify the angle with a number. When the deformer is adjusted, I add movement, but the movement of the arm is not included in the default parameters, so I add a new parameter. This is parameter creation under the parameter palette, so we will need a new parameter from here. Leave the name arm and the ID param arm. The parameter range is from 0 to 30 because this time it only adds movement to raise the arm. If you want to lower the arm movement, set it to minimum -30, standard 0, maximum 30. Insert 2 parameters into the rotation deformer and move up when you get to 30. When I raised it, my arm gave a thin impression, so this time I adjusted the thickness by adding parameters to the art mesh. Left arm moves in the same way. Creation of body tilt and up and down movement. The tilt and up and down movement of the body are applied by putting the whole body in the warp deformer. In the previous procedure, all art meshes are selected and deformers are created, but the head and hair are already in the deformer, so it is not possible to set it to the parent. So this time we'll start by creating an empty deformer and then putting in the object. You'll also need 2 defers for tilt and 2 warp deformers for up and down. If you want to create 2 deformers in a row, you can create a deformer continuously by pressing continuous create on the far left. If you want to put an object in a deformer, drag and drop the object you want to put from the deformer palette. Alternatively, with the object selected, you can put it in the corner. You can put it in the deformer by selecting the deformer from the inspector. Let's add up and down movement to the small warp deformer and tilt movement to the larger one. The top and bottom of the body moves the parameters body rotation Y. Insert 3 points to add up and down movements. If the feet float, it will be difficult to put on motion, so I deform the feet so as not to leave the ground surface. Tilt of the body movements to the parameter body rotation C. The slope of the body should be transformed into an arc instead of moving sideways. In the case of male characters, it is a good idea to put a movement to move the center of gravity. That's it for this move. If you use the deformer well, you will be able to make various movements. Since all parts are the same for basic movement, let's move a lot of character while referring to sample model. In addition, if you use the movement that you have applied so far this time, you can move the character enough, so please try the animation. Alright, that's the end of part 5 for the ASMR reading of Live2D Cubism Manual. As always, have a good night's sleep.